Well, tonight, the American League Cy Young Award winner will be crowned. Will it be Cleveland Indians pitcher Corey Kluber? Will it be Seattle's Felix Hernandez? Will it be someone else? We'll find out tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. But for now, we're going to join Indians pitching coach Mickey Callaway and talk about Kluber and more. Mickey, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Zack.
Mickey, you've seen Corey Kluber and kind of his evolution the last couple of years. You've seen every start he made this season. What stood out to you the most from the way he pitched in 2014?
Yeah, I think it was just the consistency, and that's a term we always use when we talk about Kluber, and I'm sure people are kind of sick of hearing about it, but he's just so consistent in everything he does, and that leads to consistency throughout the season and throughout every game that he pitches.
We do talk about that a lot, and I know you and Terry Francona mention it, just his day-to-day routine and how he's the same guy every single day, whether he's coming off a dominant performance or one not up to his liking. What does that entail, his day-to-day regimen that is so effective and makes him so good every 5 days?
Well, I think it really, his ability to be able to compartmentalize everything that he's doing, whether it's good or bad, gives him that ability to go out there every day and work exactly the same way. So every, first day after he pitches, he does the same exact thing, whether he has a good outing or a bad outing. And, a lot of guys, and it's human nature, if you have a bad outing, you might work harder. If you have a good outing, maybe you'll slack off a little bit that day, and you think you got it figured out. He doesn't do any of that. He always does the same thing, and that's what makes him so good.
He had a good year in 2013. I know he missed a little bit of time with a finger injury, but did you guys see this coming? When you were preparing for the 2014 season and making out that starting rotation, and I know he won the number 2 starting rotation spot in spring training, and it was kind of a no-brainer, but did you ever really see that this guy was going to be a front runner for Cy Young?
To say anybody's going to be able to do that is kind of a stretch, I would say, but I think we knew coming into this last season that he was going to be our number 2 guy based on that body of work he did in 2013. We were really excited with how he pitched and the direction he was going. Like you said, he had that little bit of a finger issue that kind of, interrupted some of that season, but we were really pleased with the body of work that he put in 2013, and we knew he'd end up getting, better and better. To expect him to do what he did this past season, obviously, like I said, would have been a stretch, but we knew he was going to be pretty good.
Justin Masterson was the veteran leader of this rotation. He struggled through the first few months. He was traded. Kluber kind of stepped into that role as really the anchor and the guy that guys gravitated to in the clubhouse. What do you think those other younger pitchers learned from him?
I think they watch him go about his daily business. And the things that the fans and people don't see is when Masterson left, we asked Kluber to step up a little bit and be more of a leader, and he was really, day in and day out, really seeking advice on how to do that and really stepping up as a leader, as well as battling for this Cy Young, award. And he knew that he was going to be in this battle, and he had to make a transition from being, maybe the second starter to the number 1 guy, and then assume that leadership role. So he had a lot of stuff on his plate that second half of the season that guys that the normal fans probably didn't see, and that was very impressive in its own right, for him just kind of stepping up and being that leader. And I really have to say that once he became that leader and everybody really started looking towards Kluber, I thought all of our other guys benefited from that for sure.
An 18-9 record, a 2.44 ERA, 269 strikeouts. So the question is, going into 2015, how can this guy possibly get any better?
Obviously he's going to have more experience, and having gone through such an unbelievable season, you're going to have more confidence than he had coming into 2014, and be able to look back and draw upon the great games he had and things like that. So that's where you improve as a pitcher, is the experience part of things. Obviously everybody's not going to perform to such an unbelievably high level every year, and you're going to have ups and downs and things like that. But I would expect him to be pretty consistent throughout his career as long as he stays healthy and to produce similar numbers. I mean, his stuff is good. His stuff is not declining, and he's strong and he works. And, it's kind of like Felix. This isn't the best he's ever pitched, but he's up for a Cy Young Award, is in that battle. So, you can't expect it every year, but you can expect him to work the same, and we know he'll work the same, so he's going to pitch well for us.
We've laid out the numbers on cleveland.com between him and Hernandez. They're awfully close, and it's certain to be a close vote when it's revealed tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Mickey, certainly you're going to be a little biased here, but what would your case be for why Corey Kluber deserves the Cy Young over any other candidate in the American League?
I think we've talked about it a little bit, and I'm going to say that word consistency again. There's no way that Felix is as consistent as Kluber is, and I think that's what made him so strong at the end. There was no struggling at all. If anything, Kluber got better. He threw probably 80 more innings than he's ever thrown in his career, and those were the best innings he's ever pitched in his life, and they were at the highest level. I mean, he was striking out 14, 13, 14, things like that right at the end of the season. So his consistency and everything really allowed him to obviously eclipse his inning total by far at the end of the season and to remain strong and pitch even better. And he was by far the best pitcher down the stretch and in the second half. So, I obviously am his pitching coach and am biased because of that. But if I could know the two people and get to watch them every day, there's no way that Felix worked harder and was more consistent than Corey Kluber.
The starting rotation put up the best numbers of any in the American League over the last 2 months. You've got Kluber coming off the season he had, a lot of young guys in that rotation, Salazar, Bauer, Carrasco, who you'll be banking on will take another step forward next year. How confident are you in that rotation moving forward, and would you still like to get another arm?
I'm very confident in those guys. Obviously, having as much depth as possible is always a good thing. We still have a young pitching staff. I am very confident in those young pitchers, and I'm going to expect more out of them this next year. And I'm going to express that to them. I want them to pitch deeper in the games. They're a little more seasoned. They've got some innings under their belt in the major leagues, and I want to see them pitch 6 and 7 innings and keep that pitch gap down and take a little pressure off our bullpen guys. So, obviously, if we can ever upgrade any position, we'd like to do that to give us a little more depth. And if that were the case, then that would be great. But if not, I feel totally confident with the guys we have in place that they're going to step up and log some innings, keep their pitch counts down, and keep us in ball games.
Is there one performance from Kluber this season that stands out to you the most?
Oh, man, that's a truly difficult question. There were so many of them, I don't think I could pick one of them. I would say, if I had to pick out anything, would be just the second half that he had and his ability to be able to just unbelievably strike guys out at a high rate. I guess the watching Kluber pitch in the game probably isn't the most satisfying part for me. It's probably watching him work in the bullpens and things like that when I was standing right next to him and I get to watch him work. So that's the fun part for me. And, I love his results, obviously, but watching him work in between is probably the special part for me.
Is it impressive to you the way he's able to block everything out, when he's walking off the field after a really good performance and the fans at Progressive Field give him a standing ovation? He says he doesn't even realize it. I mean, I don't think that's something every pitcher is born with, the ability to do that. Is that something that factors into why he's so effective? He's just able to block out all the noise and distractions?
Yeah, absolutely. The thing about, professional athletes is they're usually so emotional and so competitive. And Kluber is probably one of the most competitive guys I've ever seen, but probably has the least emotions out of anybody I've ever seen. And it seems like that totally helps him, really stay focused on each pitch, on each inning, each game, and each bullpen.
They're in a flash when you've had your fill.
Huge
It drops
advantage
paper.
over other people that might get a little more emotional. Funny story, he was coming off after one of his unbelievable games, I think the one where he struck out 14, and I was on the top step giving him a high five, and I put my hand way up in the air, and he kind of put his hand out like kind of low, and I kind of just tapped it. And I was like, man, you're not too excited. He's like, why should I be? You know, he just doesn't, he expects that he's going to go out there and do that. So it's really refreshing to see.
But just to clarify for our readers, because he's got this reputation of someone with no emotion and no personality, he is one of the bigger pranksters in that clubhouse, right?
Yes, he is, and he's very, very funny. If you get to know him, and get dry personality, but comes up with some of the best one-liners you'll ever hear.
Mickey, what will your off-season entail? I know you're getting to avoid the cold front coming into Cleveland this week, but are you going to go out and visit pitchers like you normally do every off-season and kind of just keep track on where they're at over the winter and heading into spring training?
Definitely, you know, especially with our young starters, we want to make sure that they're prepared coming into the season. You know, I probably didn't do as good of a job with guys like Danny Salazar and things like that coming into spring training last year, and we're going to make sure we change that just to make sure that they're ready. I'm going to see Trevor Bauer this weekend in Seattle, do a couple of workouts at Driveline Baseball up there in Seattle, and then next week I'm headed to the Dominican to spend some time with Salazar. So I'll be visiting these young guys and, you know, trying to steer them in the right direction and just make sure that we're ready, you know, April 5th or whenever the season starts for those guys to throw 100 pitches and go 6 or 7 innings.
All right, that's Indians pitching coach Mickey Callaway. Corey Kluber will or will not win the American League Cy Young Award tonight, 6 p.m. That will be revealed. Mickey, thanks for joining us.
Yep, thanks for having me, Zach.
All right, you can stay tuned to cleveland.com for all of our coverage throughout the day and after the award revelation. I'm Zack Meisel.